I wanted to do this video on humor because it's such an excellent example of not something, but a process that is very difficult for the thinking mind to understand. And it tries. So there are psychological and philosophical theories of humor. In fact, we've been trying to, as thinking minds, discover why we laugh. And there's, just to give you an overview, there's the kind of the Freudian idea that you're building up tension, and humor sort of, takes that pressure off the situation. There's a sense of superiority theory that is more like I'm mocking, making fun of others to make myself feel better. But that's an interesting version of humor because I think people recognize that it's not really that funny. The other version is that in humor, you go down the garden path and then something very unexpected happens, and that's funny. But none of these have been very successful. None of them, and even the neuroscience, they identify certain brain areas that seem to be associated with humor. But again, you can dissect the brain all you want. You won't find anything very funny. You'll just find neurons and neurotransmitters. So they can localize some of the areas that are more involved in humor, but it's still like anything else, like color. You can find the neuro substrate of it, but you're not going to find it itself because it isn't a thing, it's a process. And there's a whole bunch of literature on how good humor is for you. We know this. But very interesting experiments where they'll manipulate people's mood and you'll leave the lab in a better mood because you laughed a little bit. One of my favorite, and this is back when we were having face-to-face classes, which we should be soon. So I look forward to doing this exercise again where I present a laughing fit. Just to find a YouTube video with a bunch of people laughing and no reason behind it. And this is great when I get a big class of like 100 people and everyone will be laughing hysterically. Then I stop the video and I say, why are you laughing? And all of a sudden people look around and are like, I don't know. The thinking mind is completely and totally in the dark as to why you were laughing just a second ago. But that's true for all of laughter. There seems to be something about laughter that is beyond the thinking mind's ability to understand. So to give you a feel for this, I was listening to one of Rupert Spira's lectures this morning while I was out on my jog. And it was a fantastic, if you're familiar with him, he usually does a really great job with non-duality. But he was talking about if we disagree and if we feel like we hate each other even, and really what's happening there is just it's an identification with thoughts. And between the thoughts is love. And to give an example of this, it must have been 2016 because he was talking about the debates between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And he was helping the audience, he was using this as an example to help the audience realize that if any one of them, such a heated debate with so much animosity, but if either one of them would have just for a moment experienced the consciousness between the thought, because it was the thought that creates the idea that there's an adversary, if either one of them would have been the experiencer between the thoughts, they would have immediately felt love and realized that they both were deeply in love with each other. And at that point, the audience had started to laugh pretty uncontrollably. And even on my jog, I started to laugh because it's just, to be honest, a very funny image to imagine Trump and Hillary, just in love, kind of a passionate in love or a platonic in love, skipping through a field together. And I found myself kind of laughing about that image all morning. But what it rings true to is what Alan Watts said about our suffering, is that the reason we suffer is because we take seriously what the gods meant as humor. And you could find this, and that's why I think Rupert picked such a really good example with debates, because there's so much emotional tension. And that emotional, it looks emotional, but it's one of the things I've talked about in my other videos about how thoughts can hijack feelings and redirect them. And so when we become in this dualistic experience, in this dualistic reality, the thoughts are, again, taken very seriously. And we've become a very serious group of people. And the wonderful thing about humor is it's those moments in between the thoughts. They catch us unexpected, and we realize that all of the duality underneath the surface is actually connected. It's non-dual oneness, and that actually has a certain sense of humor to it. It's actually funny. So one of the really important questions, I think, and we can limit this down to a couple of these, and other things, from my perspective are important, but one of the big questions is, do you feel the universe is a humorous one? Einstein asked, is the universe a friendly place? I like to question better, does the universe have a sense of humor? And I think the sense of humor, again, I'm thinking, so I'm channeling this through, a construct in the thinking mind. But an interesting theory to play with is this notion that humor comes around when we see through the illusion. And sometimes when we see through it really in extreme cases, like, Hillary and Donald, skipping through the meadow kind of thing, realizing that all the duality is kind of a phony sense of mind to it. And when we can get laughing about that, then a lot of the other heavy, serious suffering can go along with it.